Sometimes the most brilliant and intelligent minds do not shine in standardized tests because they do not have standardized minds. And that was quoted from Diane Ravitch. Standardized testing has been around since the 19th century, and many generations of students have had their knowledge level determined by taking a test. But is it really that effective? There are many reasons that prove that standardized testing is not beneficial and does not actually test the full extent of someone's knowledge. I'm going to go through why standardized testing is not a good option to test students' knowledge or schools' effectiveness, some alternate options to it, and how that will benefit students. I'm going to first start talking about why schools should get rid of standardized testing. First, not everyone is a good test taker. Students could know the knowledge really well, but when it's laid out on a test and a timer is counting down, it could cause some to have test anxiety and not do well. Tests like these can cause a lot of anxiety and stress that really negatively affect students' mental health. Also, some people struggle with focusing on something like a test, so they could easily know the knowledge, but they may get distracted, which make it hard to do well on the test. Another thing is that there's too much pressure to do well. When students are very pressured that they have to do well by their parents, teachers, friends, and themselves, it causes them to not focus so much on actually learning the content and more focused on just making sure they can pass the test. This causes students to rely only on short-term memorization, where they memorize all the material for the test and forget it immediately after. In fact, a recent study by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology found that high scores on a standardized test might indicate only that the student is good at taking those kind of tests, not that the students know how to apply the knowledge to real-world problems. And this is because students are not actually learning and retaining the information that would be helpful in the real world, but just simply memorizing it for that certain test. Not only do students do that, but some will resort to things like cheating because they feel like they have to do well on the test no matter what. Standardized tests also only test a small amount of knowledge. Most standardized tests that I remember would test the basic things like math and reading, and sometimes like science and history. There's so much more knowledge in those basic subjects. Even if some people aren't good at knowing that information, does not mean that they're not intelligent in something else. They also don't test any creativity. Everything about those tests are so straightforward. It's always there is just one right answer that you have to pick, and that's it. It doesn't let anyone think outside the box or show their skills outside of those subjects. Even parents agree that those tests are not very useful, as a survey by PDK Gallup found that 67% of parents thought there was too much of an emphasis on testing, and only 14% thought that testing was important in measuring schools' effectiveness. There are many alternative ways to measure the student's intelligence and school's effectiveness instead of standardized tests. It would be way more effective to look at students' projects and papers over the years of them being a student, so it can show their creativity and progress over the years. They can also just look at the tests that students have already had to take in class to see how well they're doing in subjects that can't really be measured by projects like math. And even though students are still having to take tests, it will reduce the amount that they have to take. Another way that they can test knowledge is with games and surveys. With younger kids, games would be a good way to test their skills without them even knowing that they're taking a test. The games can test their fundamental skills, but it can still be fun for them. They can also have surveys instead to record emotional well-beings of students, as it has been linked to how well they perform in school. By using these alternative methods instead, it can cause a lot of benefits for the students. It can decrease stress and anxiety, and even in younger kids, standardized tests can cause a lot of stress. For example, in a study done by kindergarten through 5th grade teachers, it examined some of the behaviors done by the students, and 49% of them were fidgety, 33% of them were worried about how hard the test is, 21% of them actually stated that they were nervous. And this only gets worse as students get older. When removing these tests and incorporating some of the other methods I listed earlier, it will significantly decrease students' stress and anxiety, as they won't feel all the pressure to do well on those tests. Removing standardized testing will also increase the confidence in students that don't do so well on those tests, because everyone compares scores with each other, causing teachers and other students to have a preset opinion on how intelligent a student is, which causes that student to lose confidence in themselves. Not only does it help mental health, but it can also help show the student's full extent of their knowledge. When you look at more than just how well someone does on a time test, it can promote more creativity from students and allow them to express more themselves. Also, when you look at more than just tests and focus on projects, surveys, papers, etc., it can actually give the school a lot more knowledge about the performance and progress of the students, and let the students that don't do so well on tests get a chance to show that they're intelligent as well. Overall, standardized testing is not very effective, as there are many more alternative ways that are much more beneficial to test students' knowledge. When using these alternative methods, it can really help students' mental health and allow for a lot more creativity and out-of-the-box thinking. Even though standardized testing has been around for a while, I think it's time to make a change to the schools that will positively affect generations to come. Thank you.